Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I know that was a bit hardcore coming on, but it just looked like when they were running away that every one of them had some kind of knife thing in their hand as they was running and flashing. And I wouldn't have got that. Lee sent me the link to the video, and I thought I'll watch it full. And then I watched it full. But welcome to the show. Welcome, everyone. We've got Lee, Stuart, and Steve on. How are you, lads?
Yeah, good.
All good, thank you.
Well, thank you.
And you know, it's an epidemic, ladies and gentlemen. It's an epidemic, and it is a bloodbath. It is a bloodbath. It's a big thing with me, teenage crime. Even in the estate where I'm running in Oldham, there've been a serious 2 teenagers done for gang murder on a 16-year-old, and they both grew up and lived on my ward of Oldham. You know what I mean? And I've got to put up with this as a councillor. There's been several high-profile crimes around my area and around Oldham in general. But anyway, tonight we're going to Bedfordshire, guys. We're going to Bedfordshire. It was Lee in the chat. Send Lee there on screen, sending me a couple of links to stuff. 2025, 4 teenagers have been charged with murder after 17-year-old Thomas Taylor. And I've been told they will stand trial in the summer, with a judge also barring the 2 youngest defendants from being named. Bedford Academy pupil Thomas Taylor was fatally stabbed around 5:50 p.m. on Wednesday, 8th of January, Greenhill Street, near Bedford bus station. That's this year. There is a couple of more to do with this year as well, which are youth stabbings, but we'll just go for a general thing. So in 2019, Bedfordshire got highlighted as one of the top 3 hotspots in the country of knife crime. 2014, a teenage rapper was murdered and a friend had his nose sliced off with a meat cleaver after someone got upset by a YouTube video, court heard. Isaac Stone, 19, was chased, trapped and set upon by 4 men who stabbed him several times in Bedford Street in January, Luton Crown Court heard. Mohammed Hussain, 22, Rubo Mia, 19, Javid, Mia, whatever, Famia Khan, 20, all deny murder and attempted murder. Emergency services were called just before 2 p.m. And, you know, like, again, I did a bit of research on this kind of crime. And 2014, this is a brutal one. This, ladies and gentlemen, it's not even gang crime related, but listen to this. A teenager brutally stabbed his 15-year-old girlfriend 60 times in the head, neck, and upper chest, with 2 different knives following arguments over his jealousy. Andrew Hall, 18, who attended Stoke City Academy, the youth development part of Stoke City Football Club, pleaded guilty to murder on Friday at Luton Crown Court. Judge Richard Foster jailed him for life with a minimum of 10 years. A minimum of 10 years? 10 years, 60 times. 60 times. I could just imagine what's up with that guy and how his head's mashed up. But welcome to Bedford. Welcome to Bedfordshire. UK's, one of UK's #1 hotspots for knife crime. When I said Bedfordshire, Lee, it sounds like a sleepy town somewhere, you know, like where there's not this much kind of trouble or anything like that. But Lee, how's Bedfordshire these days, or Bedford?
Well, obviously we're right next door to Luton, so
we can't hear him for some reason. Is it just me?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear him, John.
I can hear him, John. A little bit broken up sometimes, but I can hear him.
How about now?
Yeah, it's all good my end. Must be something to do with John, mate.
It is. It'll be definitely something to do with me. It's definitely something to do with me.
do you want me to carry on, or do you want to get your technical bit sorted?
You might as well say your piece while John sort of sorts it out. Perhaps he'll sorts it out halfway through or something.
I can't hear him. I don't know what's going on. I can hear everyone else, but I can't hear Lee.
Oh, I can hear Lee.
Come on.
What with us being right next door to Luton, obviously that's going to be where the majority of stuff happens. A lot of it's drug related. You do have different areas where you have gangs going at each other, but I mean, it's just one of them towns where nothing happens, then all of a sudden everything happens all in one go. And like I say, when this murder happened, the recent one of Thomas Taylor, I'd not long got home. I actually get on the bus at that bus station every morning, but I get off one stop before that. And my mother-in-law phoned up, and she said to my wife, like, you know, is Lee all right? My missus is like, yeah, he's in the kitchen. And she's like, oh, and then she sort of said to her, said, been all over Facebook within 30 minutes of it happening. And obviously, the next day, my wife went to a Slimming World group, and one of her friends there, her daughter had actually witnessed it. I mean, she's only like 22, just a normal young girl, never been involved in anything like that. She's literally witnessed the whole thing firsthand. I mean, she was in a right state about it. Unfortunately, you count these things like a few months apart. Over where my mum lives, a few months ago, there was a lad literally going along on his bike, I think 20 years old, not long had a kid himself.
Well, I can't hear him. I'll have to go. I'm going to go back out. I'll come back in, see if that's any good.
And he'd come across another young lad. They'd got into some sort of dispute, and the lad just stabbed him. He died right there and then outside B&M. I mean, that's like two murders in literally a couple of months. And then you've had various other stabbings. I mean, we've had a few shootings here as well. And the town's advertised as a quiet market town, historic market town. I mean, it's not something you'd expect, but it's just getting worse.
Yeah, that's something I've been noticing. Is like it used to be that everyone would talk about the knife crime epidemic in London, but now it's all these more rural areas that it's happening. Like me, for example, I live near Rochester, right? Just a stone's throw away from here is Gillingham, and I don't know if you heard last year about there was a soldier called Lieutenant Mark Teaton, and he was stabbed 12 times outside Gillingham Barracks.
Yeah.
And you know, that's like nothing like that happens around here. And you know, people quite often look back to, you know, things like Lee Rigby and go, oh, you know, that's a one-off. It was awful. It's not a one-off because it's happened again. A stone's throw away from my house. You know what I mean? And I'm noticing. I don't know if it's something to do with maybe is it county lines? You know, all the drug gangs, things like that. But it seems to me that the media are like blaming external forces. Like, for example, they're sort of misdirecting the media in the sense that they're blaming things like the purchase of these weapons on Amazon instead of, well, I'm sorry, I don't think that's the root cause. I think if you want a knife, you're going to get a knife, aren't you?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, like wielding machetes and kids stabbing each other in broad daylight, nonetheless, for the most part, that's not an issue that's developed from like British culture. It's imported. I have to say, I think it is. You know what I mean? So, how do you feel about it all coming to area, Lee? Because it's pretty heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I first moved here in 2003, and I seen a lot of people that I met. They was, oh yeah, like, oh, you're from London and all that, and I'm like, yeah, like barely, from the very outskirts of it. I mean, you literally trip over and land in Middlesex, like, you know, it's not really. And but with them, it seemed more like the music culture, you know, like the rave culture, the pirate stations, stuff like that. That seemed mainly people's interest. But now it's, I don't know, the music's changed. It's all this, like that that Isaac Stone. He was famous famous around town for making music videos. Like I don't think it was this drill rap. I don't think he was like from what I've heard, he'd either forgot to mention somebody, or somebody else said that he'd, you know, this American thing where they pour alcohol on the floor to mark respect for other people or for dead people or whatever. Apparently he'd done that as well, and the other guys had taken offence. But one of the names that John read out, he was actually on. You ever watched that 24 Hours in Police Custody? Well, Tommy Robinson was on there one day, wasn't he, for punching somebody out in prison? Well, that whole incident, one of those lads that killed that Isaac Stone, he's actually one of the people that paid somebody to throw boiling water over Tommy Robinson. So, I mean, even behind bars, the geezer still at it. You know what I mean? Still causing trouble.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. Thank you. We've got a knife crime policy in our on our website. If you want to have a look at it, but we're tough. We're tough on this kind of crime, guys. Let me just tell you, we really are tough. We don't take no prisoners. It's in the chat there in depth. We don't take no prisoners. You know, it's a dreadful thing. I just can't believe it. And, you know, Steve said it's imported, and it's been well documented. It is. A lot of this is imported. We never had these kind of crimes before, like the 70s or the 80s even. It wasn't as gang related. It wasn't as youth related. But now these crimes are getting worse and worse, and the kids are getting younger and younger. And it's not uncommon to hear of 16-year-olds being done for stabbing someone to death. It's not unheard of or anything like that. Just near me, 2 14-year-old girls in the school clothes blading each other in the middle of the street, broad daylight, 3:30 p.m. or around 2017 or something like that. And it's ridiculous. You know, what do we do? Do we have... But, you know, we can blame society. You know, this rapper, something got said on a YouTube video, so it was being called out musically. You know, we can call that kind of stuff out if we can. You know, I'd have a lot more restrictions, unfortunately, on kids than they have these days. I really would. And we just won't be in after trouble we're in now. But the kids have their own ideas and who they are. And I've had this off police, social workers. They do not respect anyone. If they don't respect the parents, they don't respect the police. And we had a healthy obsession in the past respecting the police. Sorry.
John, could I just pipe in that I worked in the judicial system in a couple of different capacities for several years, and during those several years, which would have been, I'm trying to think now, let's say 2015, 14, 15, right through to 2019, there was a huge increase in the amount of juveniles taken into police custody. Now, it used to be that they were dealt with mainly on the street, taken home to parents. Even parents come along to the police station, sort it out there and then. But the rules changed. They started to bring them in for their safety, for somebody else's safety. Then you get social services involved and everything like that. And it's not good to get involved with them either. But I would say in those 5 years, there was a huge increase in the juveniles and the types of crime that they were committing, including knife crime, which was, and I come from quite a fairly sleepy area near Brighton, but I did work in other areas around Sussex, and where I live is not so bad, but some of the other areas are really bad. And the policies around juveniles, when they get taken to court and it costs us all money, and they have a magistrate slap them on the wrist, give them a fine that they can't pay, it snowballs. When you do something, there's an outcome. And the juveniles, the young people, a lot of young people, I'm not saying all, a lot of young people don't know the outcomes of their actions and the slippery path that it can lead down. And once you start on that path, it's very difficult to get off. And and in my short time, I've seen a big increase in the amount of juveniles, and I have to say the amount of immigrants in those 5 years that were taken off of lorries, trains, out the tunnel where they walk through. A lot of people don't know that you can actually walk through. So I've seen all that, and along with the juveniles coming in to, let's say, police custody, for example, the amount of immigrants coming through, it all marries up. I'm not saying it's causation, but there is definitely correlation.
Well, I will. I'll tell you. There is a correlation between immigration and things like FGM, violence against women, honour violence, and stuff like that. And as Steve said, a lot of our knife type of kind of crime is imported. I mean, like, where did the gangs come from? Where do these postcode gangs come from? Well, I can give you a pretty good example, and you'll get Jamaican people telling you this, is that we imported that sort of like gang stature and culture. We did have gangs here before, but they worked very differently. But yeah, sorry. But thank you, everyone. Welcome to the show. If you're here for the first time, please like and subscribe. Join all our links and that. We just put our knife crime policy in the chat there. Please join if you're on Twitter. Please follow us on YouTube and that. And please like and subscribe to videos. Thank you very much. Who we got in the chat? Dave 101. Yes, good evening, Dave. Big Vinny's in there. Yes, Big Vinny. Press office is in. Press office. Lodger's in. Good evening, Lodger. Serena's in. Good evening. Good evening. Mark Williams is there. Good evening, Mark. Thank you. Get sharing, everyone. Get sharing. We just took a trip to Bedfordshire, the knife crime capital of the UK. We just took a trip to Bedfordshire, and it didn't take me long, just a couple of hours of researching today to get all them details of them cases. You heard Lee go into a bit more detail on some of the cases, but shocking. All of them cases are shocking. Just 1 minute, guys.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I always used to think it was, you know, just London. This big problem was, but now it seems to have expanded, right? But despite them making up 13% of the population in London, black youths account for 65% of the perpetrators and 55% of the victims. So it's quite evident that this is a drug thing. That's what I'd assume. But it seems to me like Sadiq Khan is hell bent on maintaining chaos. And now that it's gone out into other rural areas, you know, it happens a lot in Manchester. I was looking at some pretty crazy stats earlier. The East Midlands, obviously, and all the MPs are sitting on their arse just the same as Sadiq Khan. I mean, if there's money to, you know, paint zebra crossings with rainbows and change street names to Windrush names, I don't really think the black community wants that, quite frankly. It doesn't help anyone, does it? And change train lines to stupid names and all that sort of stuff. Then there isn't a budget problem, is there? They're just choosing where to put their money. And this is the thing that bugs me the most. Sadiq Khan got knighted for what? Because London's in peril, right? When I worked sort of up in Shoreditch, I used to do a lot of bartending, so I'd come out at like 3-4 in the morning, and I saw some pretty awful stuff back in the day. But now it seems it's reached all these other areas. You know what I mean? It's hard to put. People could put it down to things like drill music, people promoting materialism, foul language all over the media, stuff like that. But I often wonder, where do you think parental responsibility comes into this? Right? What I mean by that is, I don't want to stereotype too much, right? But the stats are out there that a lot of these kids are fatherless, right? Come from fatherless homes and stuff. So if they are in single parent households, even if they're not for that matter, both the parents usually work. So how much time can they spend keeping an eye on their kids and what they're up to and stuff? But then there must be a parental responsibility at some point. And solutions, I think, is not to appease people and go, oh no, don't stop and search people because they're this, that, and they might feel bad. No, man, you got to just look at the stats and target the stats, because this is what it is. Like I said earlier as well, like Gillingham, a soldier a stone's throw away from me got stabbed 12 times, but by God's grace he's alive somehow. And that trial is coming up shortly, so I'll be interested to see what happens there. You know what I mean? But it's everywhere, this stuff now.
When you talk about the family, Steve, whole of society has worked against the family. If both parents have to work and do long hours to make ends meet, they're paying for nurseries, for someone else to look after their children. Would it not be more productive to society to stop having all these child carers and minders? Yes, have nurseries where parents go with the children and they all interact and learn together. And then when dad comes home, I know it's a stereotypical situation. I'm quite happy if the wife goes out to work and the man stays at home. But if you had one person that was there in the mornings, take you to school, make sure you get to school, whatever age you are, there when you get home, when you're expected home on time, when you get home in the evenings or after school, you do your homework, maybe have a little socialise with your friends, then you come home and you have dinner with your family. We seem to have totally lost that, and I think it's very difficult. I mean, I'm a family man myself, so I know the financial pressures and the hours and the stress that it can cause, and the stress and strain it can cause on relationships. So I think as a society, we need to make life a little bit easier for families, promote families' life. Social cohesion comes from family life. You, like Steve said, you take the father out the equation. Where's the real discipline come from? Yes, mothers. I had a very disciplinary mother, but not all mothers. A lot of mothers are soft and nurturing and too soft, whereas a dad will tell you straight when you're misbehaving. And that cut does come down father to son more than anything. I really feel that, and I think we need to, as a society, take the pressure off of families, bring back Christian values, even if you're not Christian, just the Christian values in society, look after the family, and society will improve and look after itself, in my honest opinion.
It will. It will. You know, a few things, family that we talked about, fatherless families. It's a big thing. It's a big thing across London and all that lot. And for every crime you hear of someone being stabbed on the news, there's 5 or 6 behind the scene that you don't see. And I did a video called and named about 30 people who never got named. The only time it ever comes into the news is if there's a white guy involved in it. That's the only time it ever comes into the news, unfortunately. But I can safely say 99% of the crime in London and in the gangs and the postcodes is black. It's not white, unfortunately. That's the way the statistics go. We have to show them. You know, the family, a big important thing, fatherless families. I have actually talked a little bit in depth about some cases where there were fatherless families and no protection, these youths' life and stuff like that, which ends up doing knife crime and gangster crime. I've talked about this quite a lot in depth, and it is a big, serious issue, but it comes back to community and stuff like that. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the show. We're talking about knife crime. Bedfordshire and Bedford has been in the spotlight tonight, should I say. The spotlight tonight. Unbelievable run of crime across the area. You heard Lee talking a bit extra about some of the cases that I mentioned and stuff like that, but it's all over, guys. It's all over. Steve's near London, and I'm no doubt it's bad down there. But Stuart, where are you?
I'm not far from Brighton, about 15 miles or so.
Brighton.
In between Brighton and Eastbourne, along the coast.
Brighton's had some pretty high profile.
Yeah, and Eastbourne and Hastings. Uckfield, Haywards Heath, they're all having problems, shall we say, and a lot of it's being quashed. I would also say, when you hear of a crime, especially a violent knife crime, and you don't get a description, that should ring alarm bells. Because remember Crime Watch? You know, you get a crime done, there's photo fits, there's artist impressions, there's reconstructions. Where's all that gone? When you pick up the newspaper or go online normally these days and you look at what's happening and you see a crime, when it is done or has been done by a white person, or a white person is involved, there will be a description, age, height, colour. Now, I'm not racist, never have been, but we need to face reality. The thing is, the longer it carries on, the more it's going to bring our society down. It is something that needs tackling, and I'm sorry, but I'm firmly behind doing a Trump style close the borders, don't let anybody in. And I would suggest myself that any single male between the age of 19 upwards, single male, should be removed, sent home, taken off the streets. That will make a huge difference.
Anybody who's not a British citizen or not got a passport would go anywhere under our rules.
And if you've got dual citizenship, make a choice, discard one passport, and if you decide you don't want to be in the UK, bye-bye.
We should have that for members of Parliament and the government.
Absolutely.
But in our knife crime policy, we talk about stop and search, and what it is. A lot of stop and search isn't done in London because of political correctness. You can read this on our knife crime policy, and like when they want to do it in London, the local people in the local community say, raise this. They say them buzzwords, right? Which is stopping the police doing the job. But it's been proven that it does work, stop and search. Now, you know what I want to be as a councillor? I have a ward, called Hollinwood. Pat's been to it. There's a few other people been. And what I would say to all the people in the ward, do you want stop and search done, yes or no? If they say yes, then stop and search gets done regular on teenagers and stuff like that to stop crime. If they say no, then we don't do it. Then if knife crime goes up, then it's only the people in the area's fault for not voting for it and stuff like that. We give them a choice and stuff like that. But our policy goes into that. These are some of the things we talk in our policy, and it's well documented that political correctness and that fear of that buzzword is why police don't do the job properly in London. Right? That's one of many things, but that is one of them. No one can deny it. No one can say anything else, but that is the factual thing, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to get past all that political correct rubbish, and our party we just don't go that way. We just don't go that way. We don't like saying them words. Just say a buzzword. You don't have to say anything else. You just say a buzzword. That's how we want to be, because otherwise, more kids are going to die. More people get out.
Could I just make a comment on earlier? Steve mentioned about the waste of government, misspent money, etc. I'd just like to point everybody who's listening to, if they got the X app, go on the procurement files. You will find some disgusting amount of money being wasted. For example, Transport for London. What do they run? Buses, trains, etc. Well, they spent £16 million to get staff to work in travel disruptions by taxi. 25 million on the COVID vax helpline. 1.4 billion, no, not million, billion, to refurb the Nairobi High Court. 73 million spent by the NHS just last year on translation services. Excuse me? If you're in this country and you can't speak British, bye-bye. Oh, 10 million to enhance gender and human development outcomes, strengthening systems in Nepal. Nepal, near India and China. I'm sure the mugs will love that. The LGBTQ plus going up there.
Isn't that something to do with the Gurkhas though? That money or not?
No, it's all for gender and human development outcomes. There's 22 million again gone to Nepal to enhance green growth.
So what Stuart's saying there, guys, look at all that
extreme waste. And there's loads more on there. Please go on it. The procurement files, it's called.
Things when we could have had that money over here stopping youths killing each other. That's what we could have done.
Yeah, we could have had the roads repaired. We could have given tax breaks to families.
I think we've got to look at development of communities. I think that's what we've got to look at. The police have got to be more hardcore on their arrests and stop and search and things like that. Last year, Oldham suffered 3 of the new Section 60s are called, where the police cordon off an area and do stop and search for 12, 24 hours, however long. 3 areas in Oldham, Moorside, Durkert and St James Ward and Hollinwood, where I live. And that was within 6 months of each other. These Section 60s, I've seen them in Bedford, across London, in Liverpool. There's been loads in Liverpool since the trouble at Southport, I've noticed. But, you know, the police use him enough and his political correctness getting in the way. And I think it is. I do think political correctness is a big reason and one of many reasons, but a big reason why a lot of this happens, unfortunately, I've got to say. And the police is ineptability. You know what I mean? They're spending all that money researching what we say online, yet all these kids are still being stabbed together. You know, I've reported on quite a few across Oldham, Reese, Tansy, Bolton area, Wigan, Bolton area, coaxed out of his house by a girl and then stabbed by 2 other teenagers to death. Kyle torn off. And then there was another one in Leeds where a lad was run down in Leeds. And I've reported on these over the past few years. And it's sickening, guys. It's sickening. I was at the High Courts of Justice with one family trying to get extra time on the killer's sentences. But, you know, and I've got to say, guys, let's get this out. I've got to say, it seems normalised now. I don't get as upset as I used to. What do you lot think? I don't get as upset as I used to.
Well, I certainly think there's a desensitisation to it all. Because if you really think about it, right, this isn't just a couple of gangs having a scrap. Right? This isn't even just knuckle dusters. This is premeditated murder. Because you don't just stab someone a bit, you know what I mean, to rough them up. Like, you stab someone because you want to kill them, don't you? And if this is happening amongst our kids, then I think that's very evident of how far the downfall of society has really come. Because this isn't just like gang wars of like, I don't know, some football hooligans beating each other up or having a ruck. This is premeditated murder on both sides. Like, people want blood here. And the fact that we're even desensitized to this stuff is mental. Like what happened in the Gillingham barracks near me, where that soldier got stabbed 12 times with a 10-inch blade. That's very similar, and luckily he survived. That's very similar to the Lee Rigby thing that happened years ago. Now, there was much more of an outrage for Lee Rigby, obviously, because it was a little bit more gruesome, of course. But it's not a one-off. It's the same target by the same people. And yeah, people forgot about it largely. And yeah, stuff like this is happening in more rural areas now. People moved out of London, for example, to get away from this, and it's following them over county lines and stuff, you know. And yeah, you're right, John. People are being desensitized by it, which is sad.
It's sad, isn't it?
I would also say that our mainstream media is a massive culprit. Massive culprit. When Lee Rigby died, it was splashed everywhere. Every mainstream outlet wanted you to know what had happened, who done it, and how. Now, if you get it in the mainstream media, it's a little mention, and that's about it, nothing more. So it's not just desensitizing, it's also the fact that it's not publicized, it's not made big. Does anyone else agree? It's also the fact that
I've just muted Pat. The Pat's just come in. I just muted him because I could hear him.
Hello, Pat.
Hello, guys. Just give me a minute, yeah, just to sort out my studio.
Yeah, no worries. I also think as well, Stuart. Yeah, just quickly regarding the media, what you'll notice they do is they try and redirect the blame, right? Whereas you don't focus on the root issue, they'll start saying things like, "Oh, let's ban these zombie knives." I don't know what a zombie knife is, but they look like to me survival knives, hunting knives, things like that, and making them like this big scary thing that have always been available. But they're blaming like companies like Amazon. And they're going, should Jeff Bezos be selling these? It's like, no. Look at the societal problems of kids that are using them. Why did that happen? Not about who sells them. You know what I mean? They're shifting the blame.
I just want to say, Nottingham, the Nottingham stabbings. Courtesy is one of the victims. His brother's on X. And when we look at that case, they let the guy out knowing that he could do this sort of stuff and he was capable. And they let him out of whatever psycho unit he went. The guy shouldn't have even been in the country, guys. He was that psychologically damaged before he came here, and we took him in. So the victims, that one of the mothers has spoken out in the Nottingham attack. The soldier, that case has been put forward to another day. It'd be interesting. It'd been quite quiet about the soldier, and we did have some details from him at the very beginning when his case first happened. But yeah, very much aligned with like Lee Rigby murder, which is just shocking. But you know, no one's making an outrage, no one's saying anything. And when there was an outrage in Southport, look what happened. How many people got arrested, locked up over that. Pat, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you for introducing me to the show. I've just been outdoor knocking and had a bit of an eventful night. Got told to F off, which is motivates me even more to make sure I get a bigger vote than what I was expecting. But yeah, no, thanks. Hello, Steve. Hello, Stuart. Hello, Lee and John. Sorry I'm late for the stream. Yeah, but also I heard another very interesting story. This Christian guy, I said to him, I said, "Oh, did I speak to you before? Did I give you a leaflet?" He went, "Yeah, I spoke to you before." And he said, "Yeah, and you're a Christian, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, that's right." He said, "Oh, yeah, so am I." And I said, "Oh, that's good." And apparently he was about to transition, and he went into a church to pray to help him transition. And they said, "Well, we need to pray for you not to transition, actually." And it changed his life around, and because he was about to go on hormones and the operation and everything, and it was just an amazing story and he said that Jesus saved him basically from this demonic thing what's going on. But yeah, so it was an eventful night, but yeah, it's a really interesting subject with the knife crime. There's 4 very important things what you've all mentioned, you know, like Christianity's been removed, so family breakups. Someone also said in the chat, family breakups create more, and people need more housing as well when families break up. But immigration is definitely one of the biggest ones because, in my opinion, because for example, in London, most of the police are white because they recruit from all around the country, and you got a bit of a divide between like the blacks or Asian ethnic minorities, and all the police are white. So there's that tension going on all the time. And it's just terrible because they always say, oh, it doesn't matter what colour you are, immigration doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what. Well, it does, because these people in London, they're saying they want black police officers now, and so it does matter. And so that's one big reason there's a big divide. So these ethnic minority groups tend not to want to use the police to settle their differences. Then you've got the illegal drug trade as well, which is another reason they don't cooperate with the police. And to be honest, if it was all white London, there would still be a problem with this illegal drug trade. I'm sure of that. But, you know, our policy is to decriminalise drugs. Some people don't like this idea, but it's, you know, we say try it out for 4 years, and if it doesn't improve things, you change it back. Because in America, they've tried the tough sentencing, and they've ended up with more and more people in prison, 180 years sentences they get, and it hasn't stopped the drug problem. It's still as bad as ever. All it does is push the price up. So the illegal drug trade is a massive part of it. Politically correct policing, the anti-white agenda, the Equalities Act. Our policy is to scrap the Equalities Act and free the police from these politically correct chains, and not be scared of the R word and all that. Well, it's not just the R word. They can actually lose their careers and get arrested for these laws they brought in against the native population. So yeah, they're the main driving factors, I would say. Single parent families down to Christianity. But yeah, so yeah, another thing is so minimum sentence, 2-year prison sentence if you're over 18, and at the moment it's 6 months, I do believe, for carrying a knife, which some people say, oh, you should make it 5 years. But if you make it 5 years, the minimum sentence for carrying a gun at the moment is 5 years. So what they did, they lowered they actually lowered the sentence of the knives, because if you're getting 5 years for carrying a knife and carrying a gun, people are going to start carrying guns again, because about 10-15 years ago, gun crime was really bad, and they managed to drop it down a little bit, but they've all just moved on to knives. So yeah, it's a very serious problem for our country, and I don't hear a lot of these other parties like Reform and that talking about the illegal drug trade is driving it, and Christianity. I think they do say about the political correctness, but they won't say immigration is driving it either. So yeah, that's my addition to the conversation.
Yeah, like I said, immigration certainly got something to do with it. One of many things, but it is a big part of it. It is. And what we're importing and stuff we're importing. At the end of the video, got a little bit of Enoch Powell coming on. So make sure everyone, you stay till the end of the video and listen to that coming on and stuff like that. But yeah, knife crime. You know, I've talked about it, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Oldham, Bedfordshire, across the country, Brighton, Bristol, a real severe murder last year. One of our lads, Steve Eklund, who comes to camp, some friends of his, 2 teenagers run down in the street. Leeds, Scotland, the North East, everywhere, Liverpool. It's shocking, and we need to stamp it out, guys. And there is accountability. Steve said it earlier on, and I'll tell you right now, some parents have got some fucking accountability. They have. The way they brought up the kids and the way they've left the kids to get out of control. I've actually seen it in myself in real life, and it's not nice. So no, there is an element of responsibility on them people. But thank you, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Follow our descriptions.
One thing I would add, John, is that there is this anti-white agenda coming from the media, like white people are evil, and we are seeing a hell of a lot of murders, like black on white murders, and I think it has got a little bit to do, a hell of a lot to do with it. This anti-white agenda coming from the education system, social services, like the whole establishment. It's like white people are to blame for everything.
Southport, I think that's a lot to do with the Southport case, unfortunately. I really do. And I said that a couple of weeks ago. I haven't said too much about it, but it is. And the way the media and what they do in education, all over the country, and even in Ireland, it's well documented. They treat you that like the natives are scumbags. That's what they say in education. That's what it is.
It's critical race theory.
Critical race theory. A big
from a young age, they talk about and teach you about one form of slavery, white on black. That's the only thing they teach you at school. I watched a documentary a little while ago, and they had 2 rooms, one with 10 black people, one with 10 white people. They had a line down the middle of the room on both rooms, and then 5 lines going out to the walls. And they said, if you are proud of your race, or how proud are you of your race or not of your race? So all the black people went straight to the good side. They're so proud of their race. They were all in number 4 and number 5. None stayed in the centre. None went to the bad side. In the white room, nearly everybody, apart from one person, moved 3 or 4 paces to the bad side. So they all had white guilt inbuilt. We should be proud. We brought laws, governance. Who carried out wars to fight against slavery, to abolish it? I think it was us.
It's Christianity.
There are a lot of things we need to be proud of. The Industrial Revolution. We were the first country to do that. So right from history, we should be taught to be proud.
Yeah.
Not racist, not supremacist, but equally proud as the next person of whatever colour they are.
Yeah,
we should all be proud.
You're right, Stuart. And there is that anti-white and anti-British sentiment around. And, even before I was in the cause, more than 10 years ago, I seen everything was anti-British and anti-England. That's what I seen more than 10 years ago. As Stuart rightly points out, critical race theory, a big thing in our universities. And when you look at it, it's just critical race theory might as well say hate the white man or hate the Western world. That's what it might as well say when you look into it. The kind of people who started it up, Marxists, really perverse Marxism and stuff like that, critical race theory, a nasty thing. But yeah, I believe that was a big thing to do with Southport. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. 8 p.m. every Tuesday. And we've been going on for more than 2 years with these streams. So really tune in. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. I've got a lot of subscribers at the moment and I've monetized up. So views and comments are more than welcome on my shorts and my videos, please. If you've got any questions for us, you can email us down at the bottom there. Anything to do with the show, anything you want coming up or anything like that.
Yeah, let me say something to that, John. We've had quite a few people come forward to us over the last couple of months to stand in elections and stuff. So if you are watching and you're on the fence and hesitating, just face the fear and contact us and talk to us about if you want to stand in a certain area, because Lee did it and Steve's going to do it and Stuart's going to do it. And John's done it, I've done it, and there's nothing to be frightened of. We've got to save the nation, and you know, it's possible to do it standing elections, that is. So please step forward, join the party, obviously, first. £22 a year. It's £11 unwaged. And we've had a few members join recently. So welcome to all the new members and stuff. And let us know if you haven't received your membership cards. So, yeah, so my campaign's going really well. Was out door knocking tonight. Very successful. You know, you get the odd one that is not pleased about your message, but it's a minority of people. So, yeah, that's about it. I'll hand it over, John.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So, you know, do we become more tough on knife crime? I think we all agree about family, community, how we raise our kids. But right now, shall we be tough on knife crime and youth crime? Shall we really treat them like adults? What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, there was one point I wanted to make. I know a lot of these crimes, the main ones that you see on the TV and everything, they're talking about zombie knives and stuff. But there was one good point I heard listening to a podcast recently. And the guy, he just asked a very simple question. He does his own anti-knife campaign. And he said, you've got teenage kids in your house. How many knives you got in your kitchen drawer? Do you know? No one could answer. They don't know. And you know how simple it'd be to drill a circular hole in your knife drawer and have a lock on there which went up into your countertop. Yeah. The only way of opening that drawer, well, there isn't. All you do is rip the handle off it. Only one person has the key to it. I mean, how you're only going to need your kitchen knives once a day when you're cooking. But they're there in the kitchen. You know, you've got a teenage kid that's, I don't know, and a lot of them, they're carrying for what they think's protection. But the minute you're carrying one, it's not really protection, is it? Because you're going to use it.
That's what always happens in the cases.
The thing is with that, I feel that if the family was there, if the family unit was there, and you had family values, you wouldn't really need it, but two, at meal times and preparation, that's when kids should be getting involved, and we should be bringing them up knowing what a knife can do to someone.
We're never going to get past it. Steve, what do you think? Do we become more tougher?
Yeah, I think there's such a lax in society. I think for example, if you teach people, this largely is about education really, but if you teach a certain people that they are victims, that will then fester in them to have vitriol for the ones that they've been told you're the victims of these people, and it will harvest like really dark things in you, and it wouldn't be good for their own community either. In terms of being tougher on it, I've got absolutely no problem with stop and search and stuff like that. Just look at the statistics, then target them stats. Also, I think parental responsibility, perhaps we need to be a little bit tougher on. For example, if a kid is found with something on them at school, find the parents. Why are they not checking their bags before they go to school? You know, stuff like that maybe. There's all sorts of solutions, I suppose. But yeah, let's start getting tougher, guys.
Pat?
Yeah, I mean, it's all evident in our policy. We need a tougher sentence for carrying a knife, 2 years for over 18s, and it's 12 months for under 18s. But we need to scrap the Equalities Act, guys, because the Equalities Act is the reason why the rape gang epidemic escalated, and it's the reason the knife crime epidemic is escalating, because the police, if you're white, even if you're black, they're bloody still called with the politically correct names.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So, you know, we need to get rid of the Equalities Act, because it's basically destroying our society, because like what we've just explained, Christianity as well, we need to get people back into church and stuff. And you know, like, so you got a lot of single parent women with like these kids in London, and they got no man in the house, and that's because of it's so easy for people just to split up now, and they can go and have sex everywhere and have kids everywhere with other women, and there's no consequences because there's no Christianity anymore. So that's a big part of it. And but I think it's been a good discussion, and we need to get into power and implement our policies.
telling you.
Could I just add for education, at school they have a lesson called something like personal sexual health and all of that. That's where they push the LGBTQ and DIE and all of that. How about we strip that away and have lessons taught from a primary school age, the dangers of getting involved in gangs, knives,
Yeah, well, one of our policies is to remove
the consequences, constant, week in, week out. That's what we should be teaching our kids about, the dangers of that.
One of our policies is to remove sex education from schools.
Yeah, definitely. There definitely needs to be more done at school. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for tonight. National Housing Party. You hear the big subjects and the big talk coming from us, and we've talked through a lot of things. Yes, there was stuff to do with immigration. Yes, we mentioned fatherless families. Yes, we mentioned single mothers. Yes, we've mentioned community. We've mentioned a bit about everything to do with what's up with our society today. We haven't focused on one thing. We've mentioned it all. This is a National Housing Party. My name is John Lawrence. Good night. Don't forget, guys, we've got a little bit of a video coming out, so stay on and watch it. Thank you very much.
In this country, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man. Well, I can already hear the chorus of execration. How dare I say such a horrible thing? How dare I stir up trouble and inflame feelings by repeating such a conversation? My answer is that I do not have the right not to do so. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. We must be mad, literally mad as a nation, to be permitting the annual inflow of some 50,000 dependents who are, for the most part, the material of the future growth of the immigrant-descended population. It is like watching a nation busily engaged in heaping up its own funeral pyre.